The galaxy was quiet, eerily so. For centuries, peace had reigned across the stars. Planets, large and small, spun silently in the vast emptiness of space. Aliens, far and wide, had long since stopped worrying about threats to their existence. They were powerful, some, more so than others, but none feared anything that could harm them. The galaxy had known peace, but one thing lingered in the shadows: humanity to the outside world. Earth seemed like any other planet. It wasn't the biggest, nor was it the most technologically advanced, but there was something different about it, something that set it apart from the rest of the galaxy, and no one could quite put their finger on it. For centuries, humanity had quietly developed in the shadows, never showing their true strength. They had wars, they had conflicts, but through it all, they survived. It was said that the first time an alien race had tried to invade Earth, they were swiftly and completely defeated. No one quite understood how there were no records, no stories. The aliens that tried to invade Earth never returned, and their disappearance remained a mystery. Despite that, the rest of the galaxy had little interest in Earth. They viewed the humans as primitive, their technology outdated. They had no grand starships, no advanced weaponry, and no great armies. They were, for all intents and purposes, beneath notice. But that all changed when the Galactic Council began to hear whispers. It started as a rumor, a hushed conversation between a few alien species. The story was always the same: humanity is not what they appear to be. At first, no one took the rumors seriously. After all, how could such a young, insignificant species pose any real threat to the might of the galaxy? Earth was just another unremarkable planet in a vast universe of endless possibilities. The Council, made up of the most powerful species in the galaxy, had seen it all. Nothing could surprise them. Or so they thought. Then came the reports. One by one, scouts were sent to Earth, tasked with observing the humans. The first scout arrived, reported back, and disappeared. The second scout, similarly, came back with nothing of note. But the third was different. When it returned, it was unlike the others. Its transmission was distorted, almost unintelligible. Filled with fear and panic. "They have something," the scout's voice crackled. "Something we weren't prepared for. We thought they were just another primitive species, but their power is unimaginable." The transmission ended abruptly. The Galactic Council was intrigued, but they dismissed it as an isolated incident. After all, it was impossible for humans to have anything of real value. They were just another species trying to survive on a small, unimportant planet. Surely there was nothing to fear. But then came the strange disappearances. Entire fleets of scouts, some of the most advanced ships in the galaxy, simply vanished after reaching Earth's atmosphere. Nothing returned. No signal, no message, no debris, nothing. And it wasn't just a few ships. More and more reports of missing ships came flooding in, all linked to the same place, Earth. It became clear that something was wrong. The Council called for an emergency meeting. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered, eager to find out what was happening. They knew that something was wrong, but no one had any answers. As the meeting began, a hologram of Earth appeared in the center of the council room. It was peaceful, quiet, just as it always had been. But there was a strange feeling in the air, an unease that hung over the room like a dark cloud. A voice broke the silence. "We need to send a fleet. We need to know what's happening on Earth," said Zyros, the leader of one of the most advanced alien races in the galaxy. His species had encountered nearly every other race and had never been defeated in battle. They had seen threats come and go, but Earth was different. The room fell silent. "Why would we send a fleet?" asked Zoroth, another member of the council. "What's so dangerous about Earth? Surely we're overreacting." Zyros looked around the room, his eyes narrowing. "You don't understand. This is not just a normal situation. We've lost scouts advanced, scouts without a trace. And the reports that we've received are inconsistent. Some say the humans are weak. Others say they have something dangerous. But no one knows for sure. The only thing we can be certain of is that no one dares to challenge them." The room was still. For the first time in centuries, the council felt a chill run through them. The words "no one dares to challenge them" echoed in their minds, leaving an unsettling thought hanging in the air. What if they had underestimated humanity? And so the decision was made. A fleet would be sent to Earth to investigate. They would gather information, assess the situation, and determine once and for all what was going on. But as the meeting ended and the council members dispersed, none of them knew the truth. None of them knew what the humans had been hiding, and none of them knew that the silent giants were waiting for them, biding their time, ready to make their move. The storm was coming, and no one was prepared for it. The fleet was assembled in silence, its ships hovering in the void of space like a gathering storm. The galaxy's mightiest leaders, all members of the council, sat at the heart of their command ships, staring at Earth from a safe distance. They were far from the planet, yet they felt an unease that none could shake. They had underestimated the humans once, and now they were determined not to make that mistake again. The human planet, Earth, appeared peaceful from this distance, too peaceful. No signs of conflict, no battlefields scarred by war, no weapons on display. The perfect illusion of an innocent world. But the strange disappearances of their scouts, the fear in their reports, spoke volumes. And yet, despite the mounting evidence, the council members still couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were walking into a trap. "Initiate the scan," ordered Zeros, the leader of the advanced species, his voice cold and commanding. The order was followed without hesitation. A beam of energy shot from their largest ship, scanning Earth with precision. They would know what the humans were hiding. As the scan concluded, a projection appeared before the council members' warship. But not just any warship. The vessel was massive, far larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its surface was smooth, metallic, and glowing with energy. There were no visible weapons, no signs of its true purpose. But the design was unlike anything the council had ever encountered. "Impossible," muttered Zorath, a member of the council. His eyes were wide in disbelief as he stared at the projection. "This ship, it's older than anything we have ever seen. Yet its power readings, they're off the scale. This isn't possible." Zyros, however, wasn't surprised. He had seen enough to know that humans weren't what they seemed. They had hidden their true strength for too long, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. "They've been hiding this for centuries," Zyros said, his voice low. "This is their last line of defense. They call it the Silent Giant." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Silent Giant was no ordinary warship. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, one that humanity had kept hidden for reasons unknown. No one had ever suspected that such a powerful ship could exist, especially not on a primitive world like Earth. But now it was clear. Humanity had a weapon capable of wiping out entire fleets. The silent giant was a symbol of the humans' strength, their hidden power, and their terrifying resolve. And if the council intended to challenge them, they would have to face it. We need to find out how to counter it, said Zorath, his voice tinged with urgency. If this ship is as powerful as it seems, we might not be able to stop them. Zeros shook his head. We don't need to stop it. We need to understand it. And more importantly, we need to understand them. The council turned to the projection again. Examining the warship closely, it was clear that this wasn't just a military asset, it was a symbol of something much larger. The humans had been hiding their true strength, waiting for the right moment to reveal it to the galaxy. The question now wasn't whether the ship could destroy them, was whether the humans would use it, and so the council's plan shifted. They would send a team to Earth, not just to investigate the silent giant, but to learn more about humanity itself, to uncover their secrets and, if possible, forge an alliance. But even as they made their plans, a nagging doubt remained in the back of their minds. What if the humans didn't want peace? What if they wanted to dominate the galaxy? Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans knew nothing of the Council's plans. They had remained hidden in their quiet corner of the universe for so long that they had forgotten how to trust outsiders. But now, with the silent giant ready to awaken, everything was about to change. The time for hiding was over. The storm that had been brewing in the dark corners of the galaxy was now making its way toward Earth, and humanity would stand at the center of it, as the fleet prepared to descend upon the planet. The humans were ready for what lay ahead. They had waited for this moment for centuries. The silent giant wasn't just a weapon, it was humanity's answer to the galaxy's arrogance. The humans had been underestimated for too long. Now they would show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. The cold, dark void of space had always been unforgiving, but today it felt different. The stars shimmered in their eternal dance, unaware of the impending chaos that would soon engulf them. Deep within Earth's atmosphere, something ancient stirred, a dormant power long hidden from the cosmos. The humans had kept their secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal it to the universe. That moment had come. On Earth, in a hidden, high-tech facility buried beneath miles of rock and metal, the hum of machinery began to rise. It was faint at first, barely a whisper, but it grew louder. A network of sensors, long dormant, flickered to life, feeding data back to human command centers. The silent giant was awakening. In the heart of the facility, a massive chamber loomed, a place that no one had set foot in for centuries. Inside it lay the last human warship, long forgotten by most of humanity. Its hull was sleek, a dark silver grey that seemed to absorb the very light around it. The ship's surface was smooth, almost organic in its curvature, as though it had been grown rather than built. Its engines, powered by an unknown energy source, had been silent for millennia, but now they roared to life. The walls of the chamber rumbled as the ship's energy reserves surged, filling the room with a low, resonant hum that vibrated through the bones of anyone near it. The ship had been designed for one purpose: to defend humanity from the unknown, from those who would seek to destroy it. But the ship was more than a weapon, it was a message that humanity was not to be trifled with. And now that message was ready to be sent. In the control room above the chamber, General Alina Voss stood before a series of monitors, her eyes fixed on the data streaming in. Her mind raced as the magnitude of what was happening began to sink in. The silent giant wasn't just a warship, was humanity's last line of defense. And it was waking up. "We have to move quickly," she said to her team, her voice steady but urgent. "The council will be here soon. We can't afford to wait any longer." Her orders were clear. The silent giant was humanity's trump card, and it had been kept hidden for a reason. There had been rumors, whispers of its existence, but nothing concrete. To the rest of the galaxy, the humans were just another species, one that had survived, but one that lacked the true power to make a real impact. Now, the time had come to show the galaxy just how wrong they were. The ground shook as the silent giant's engines began to activate. The ship's colossal frame rose slowly, like a great beast stretching after a long slumber. It was a silent giant. Indeed, there was no roar of engines, no explosion of light, just the quiet power of something ancient and unstoppable. As the ship lifted from the chamber, Elena's eyes narrowed. She knew that the galaxy was about to be forever changed. The humans were no longer just survivors, they were hunters, and they would no longer be overlooked. Meanwhile, the Council's fleet was already on its way, their ships moving through space toward Earth. They knew the humans had awakened something powerful, but they still believed they could handle it. After all, they had faced threats before, some of them far more terrifying than anything the humans could muster. What they didn't know was that this time, they were the ones who would be caught off guard. The fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, its ships moving cautiously, scanning the planet below. The council members expected to find the humans scrambling, struggling to organize some kind of defense. Instead, what they found was silence. No movement, no resistance. The calm that had enveloped the planet seemed unnerving now, as if the humans were waiting for something. Then, as the fleet moved closer, they saw it, a flash of light in the distance, so bright that it seemed to cut through the darkness of space itself. It was the silent giant, emerging from its hidden lair, slowly but surely. The fleet paused, stunned by the sheer size and power of the ship. Is that ... Is that the silent giant? Zoroth asked, his voice barely a whisper. The enormity of the ship was beyond anything he had imagined. Yes, Zoroth replied, his voice steady but filled with an edge of apprehension. And it's only the beginning. The council's ships were in position, but the silent giant was moving faster than they anticipated. In moments, it would be within range to strike, and the council knew they had no chance against it. Not without a plan. Not without understanding what humanity was capable of. But it was too late. The silent giant fired. The blast was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. A pulse of energy shot from the ship's core, tearing through the fabric of space itself. And the council fleet was thrown into chaos. Ships exploded in an instant, their shields no match for the overwhelming force of the silent giant's weaponry. The remaining ships scattered, retreating in every direction, but they were no match for the speed and power of the warship. The galaxy's most powerful fleet had just been decimated, and the message had been sent. The silent giants had awoken, and no one, not even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, dared to challenge humanity anymore. The destruction was swift. The once proud fleet of the Galactic Council, the strongest military force ever assembled in the galaxy, was now nothing more than space debris, scattered across the void. The silent giant had fired once, and the vast power behind that single shot had decimated everything in its path. There were no warnings, no second chances, just an overwhelming display of human might. The remaining ships, those few that managed to escape the initial blast, were now fleeing in all directions, their engines pushed to their limits. But it was futile. The silent giant was too fast, too powerful, and it was relentless. It wasn't chasing them. It was simply waiting, watching, as if it knew that sooner or later they would all come back to it. On the surviving ships, chaos reigned. Crew members scrambled to activate shields, reroute power, and contact their homeworlds for help. But there was no help coming. The message was clear. The humans were no longer the weak, vulnerable species that had been easily ignored. They were a force to be reckoned with. Zorath, one of the council leaders who had survived the initial attack, stared at the dark expanse of space outside his ship's viewports. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How could something so powerful exist in a place as insignificant as Earth? What had they missed? What had they not seen? Zyros, the leader of the most advanced race in the galaxy, stood beside him. His face was grim, but there was a glint of recognition in his eyes. He had seen humanity's potential long before this moment. The silent giant was no accident. Had been waiting for this time, for the moment when humanity would need to step forward and remind the galaxy of its place. "We were wrong," Zoroth said, his voice barely audible. "We thought we could handle them, but we were blinded by our own arrogance." Zoroth nodded slowly. "They were hiding this power for a reason. We were never meant to know. Now we will have to deal with the consequences." The remaining ships of the fleet had retreated far into the depths of space, but even now they couldn't escape the knowledge that they were being hunted. The silent giant was watching them, its sensors attuned to their every movement, its weapons poised for the next strike. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans had no idea how the galaxy's most powerful races were reacting. They were unaware that their actions had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, shaking the very foundations of intergalactic politics. The silent giant had done its job, and humanity had proven its worth in a single, decisive strike. But for those who had dared to challenge them, it was far from over. The Council's remaining forces convened, a final meeting taking place aboard the only surviving command ship. This was no ordinary gathering. The leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species were here, and their faces betrayed a mix of fear, frustration, and determination. "We cannot let this stand," Zoroth said, his voice full of defiance. "The humans have shown their strength, but we will not bow to them. We will strike back, and we will make them pay for their arrogance." Zeros, however, was far more calculating. "We must approach this carefully. The silent giant is just the beginning. Humanity has more than just one weapon, more than just one ship. This is a race we cannot afford to lose. If we make the wrong move, we risk everything." As the Council debated, far away on Earth, General Alina Voss stood before a massive control screen. Her eyes focused on the data streaming in from every corner of the planet. The silent giant had completed its mission, but now humanity was faced with a choice. Would they continue to hide their power, or would they step forward as the rulers of the galaxy? Voss knew that whatever decision they made, the galaxy would never be the same. There was no going back. The age of human obscurity was over. The silent giant had sent its message, and there would be no turning back from what humanity had just awakened. The decision was made. Alina turned to the officers beside her. "Prepare the fleet. We are going to show the galaxy exactly what humanity is capable of. And this time, there will be no negotiations, no peace talks. Only one question remains. Who dares to challenge us?" The cold silence of space had always been a comfort to the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. It was vast and unfeeling, a place where the powerful could stake their claim and the weak could disappear unnoticed. But now the silence was being shattered by something far more terrifying than any invasion or weapon of war, the human presence. Humanity had been the quiet observer for centuries, but no longer. They had shown the galaxy their power, and now the universe had no choice but to take notice. On Earth, the decision had been made. The humans would no longer hide. General Alina Voss stood at the helm of the newly assembled human fleet, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These ships, built in secret and forged through years of preparation, were not simply military vessels. They were symbols of a new era. The silent giant was only the first. Humanity had more weapons, more ships each, more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever encountered. "Prepare for deployment," Alina ordered. Her voice was calm, but her eyes reflected the weight of what was to come. "We don't fight for survival anymore. We fight to show the galaxy that humanity will never be a pawn again." The human fleet surged into space, their ships gliding through the stars like predators stalking their prey. They were no longer the unknown species, the helpless earthlings who could be ignored. They had awakened, and the galaxy would feel their wrath as the fleet made its way into the heart of galactic space. The Council's remaining forces prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The galaxy's most powerful species had learned their lesson the hard way. Humanity was not to be underestimated, but the question remained, could they defeat them? Zoroth, the leader of one of the most powerful races in the galaxy, paced the command deck of his ship. The loss of their fleet was still fresh, but he had never been one to accept defeat. "We will not fall to humans," he muttered under his breath, glaring at the holographic projections of the human fleet approaching. "We will fight to the last. Ship, if we must." Zyros, the leader of the largest and most advanced species in the galaxy, was more cautious. "They are no longer just a threat. We must understand their strength. These humans, they are different. They are prepared for war, but they have something more. We need to find out what it is before it's too late." As the two leaders debated strategy, Elena's fleet reached the edge of the Galactic Councils. Space, the stage, was set. Both sides knew that there would be no easy victory. The humans had already proven their power once, but now they would need to face the full might of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. It began with a single strike. The human fleet released their first wave of energy pulses, their weapons locked onto the Council's ships. The space around them flickered with blinding light as the weapons fired, tearing through the emptiness like a flash of lightning. But the Council was ready. Their ships maneuvered with incredible speed, deploying shields and countermeasures designed to withstand even the most powerful human attacks. The battle raged on, with explosions lighting up the dark expanse of space. Zyros watched as the battle unfolded. His ships were holding their own for now, but it was clear that humanity was more than just a threat. They were an unstoppable force. "Their strategy is unlike anything I've seen. They don't just fight to win, they fight to send a message," Zyros realized. "They are fighting for their place in the galaxy." Zorath, ever the optimist, refused to back down. "We will hold up ground, we will break their resolve, and we will make them understand that we are the true rulers of this galaxy." But as the fight continued, it became clear that Zorath was wrong. Humanity was not backing down. They were relentless. The silent giant, their ultimate weapon, now hovered in the midst of the battlefield, its presence looming over the galaxy like a shadow. The Council's ships, despite their size and power, were no match for the sheer force of the human assault. The battle reached its climax. The humans launched their final, decisive strike. The silent giant, at the heart of the conflict, unleashed a devastating energy pulse that cut through the galaxy's most advanced fleet like a blade through soft cloth. The energy rippled through space, destroying ship after ship in an instant. The remaining council ships fled, their commanders realizing the inevitable. This battle was lost. The humans had shown them that there was no place for arrogance in a universe where strength and will were the true rulers. And as the remnants of the once mighty fleet retreated, the humans stood victorious. Alina stood at the helm of her ship, watching the retreating council forces. She knew this was only the beginning. The battle for the galaxy had been won, but humanity's place in the cosmos had only just begun. The message was clear. No longer would humanity be a silent observer in the great game of the universe. They had earned their place among the stars, and nothing would ever take it from them. The silent giant, their most powerful weapon, had delivered its message, and the galaxy would never forget what had happened that day.